I'm Vinny Politan. Great to have you with us here on Closing Arguments. A big legal news day, and it doesn't get much bigger than this. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania overturning the conviction of Bill Cosby, setting him free. If you don't believe me, take a look. We've got the video. This is Bill Cosby today. He's out of prison. He is done. He is victorious. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania overturning his conviction, setting him free, and he got out of prison in like 60 seconds after the decision came out. Unbelievable developments tonight. Let's take a listen to reaction from Bill Cosby's team.
This was an unwanted 3-year vacation that Mr. Cosby never asked for. But in hindsight, we're happy that he got it because he was able to pull the covers off of the corruption in Montgomery County with the crooked DA, with the crooked judge, Steele and O'Neill. These same people find this man, this American citizen. I don't know how a DA has that much time on his hands to fine him $2,010 for not cutting his yard. I was on the way to pay that fine when I got a call from Nick DeHaan. And Nick told me that they had vacated the conviction. You know, what we saw today was justice. Justice for all Americans. Mr. Cosby's conviction being overturned is for the world and all Americans who are being treated unfairly by the judicial system and some bad officers, because all officers are not bad. So we want to thank this entire team. We want to thank Mrs. Cosby, her family. I want to thank my family. And just thank you all for those who decided to tell the truth and allowed us to tell the truth when we had the opportunity. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let me a little reality check on what really happened here. And I understand Bill Cosby's team, they're excited. They won. But don't confuse this with an exoneration, okay? Because as we say all the time here on Court TV, legal cases are comprised of the facts and the law. The facts in this case have not changed. There was no new evidence uncovered here. There was nothing that was revealed to the Supreme Court that said, oh my goodness, this man is innocent, he must be set free. No. This was a decision based upon the law, not the facts of the case, but the law of this case. Now, it's a victory for Bill Cosby. That was clear. Take a look at a little piece of the decision and the opinion from the Supreme Court, where it says there is only one remedy that can completely restore Cosby to the status quo. He must be discharged, and any future prosecution on these particular charges must be barred. Okay, that's a victory. It's an absolute victory. But again, not a victory on the facts of the case, a victory on the law. Let me bring in Court TV anchor, my colleague. We call her the law professor. She was in the courtroom for Bill Cosby's first trial. She knows the case inside and out. So, Julie, first explain to us the legal basis on how Bill Cosby was set free by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania.
Vinny, thanks for having me tonight. I'm so glad you said that about exoneration, because you're exactly right. This was not an exoneration. So far from it. Legally, it was a procedural issue that resulted in the conviction being vacated. And this is what it was. The Supreme Court majority opinion said that Bill Cosby was deprived of his due process rights under the law when he had an agreement with the prior district attorney that he would not be prosecuted. And at the same time, this attorney was well aware that there was a civil suit going with the same victim, Andrea Constand. And by promising him that he would never be criminally prosecuted for the sexual assault, that Fifth Amendment right was no longer a concern, because in the civil deposition, he couldn't say, oh, I'm going to invoke the Fifth because it's no longer an issue. The threat of criminal prosecution no longer existed in his world. So what did he do? He talked. And he talked all about getting Quaaludes from his doctor and giving them to women to have sex with them. And so all of that was taken down in a transcript, in a deposition for that civil case. And then later on, fast forward to a brand new DA taking office who wanted to prosecute him, and then at the trial ultimately introduce that deposition testimony against him. So if it weren't for that promise not to be prosecuted and then his detrimental reliance on that promise, he would have never spoken about it, and that evidence would have never existed. So, Vinny, the Supreme Court, in a very well-reasoned 79-page opinion that I know you've read carefully, found that his due process rights were violated in all of this, and that the prosecution should have been barred in the first place.
Yeah, it basically ruled that this was a bait and switch. I think they actually put those words in part of the opinion, that one prosecutor induces him into this thing, so there's an ability to go forward in the civil case, and he gets deposed, and then the new prosecutor comes in and takes away that deal. And I understand, but people are upset on both sides of this, right? Some people think he never should have been in prison to begin with, and a lot of other people saying, oh my goodness, what is going on here? So we said facts and law, all right? You explained the law of the case very well as to why he's a free man and why this conviction was overturned, vacated, and he is free tonight. Just remind us a little bit about the facts of this case.
Sure, Vinny. The facts were there, as you said, and as somebody who witnessed Andrea Constand testifying in the courtroom, I sat in through his first trial, and I remember you could hear a pin drop when she took the stand. She was a very authentic, believable, genuine person up there on the stand, and she talked about how she saw Bill Cosby as a father figure. To her, he was somebody she got to know through Temple's basketball program, and she looked at him as a mentor and would go to him for advice and whatnot, and it is what we know today as grooming by predators, what occurred with her, because she was made to trust him and feel comfortable with him, so comfortable she went to his home in Montgomery County one night, and she was very stressed and tired, and he said, "You look tired, let me give you something to help you relax," and gave her 3 blue pills and gave her a glass of water, said, "Take these, it'll really take the edge off, you'll feel better." The next thing she knows, she remembers being on the couch and he had pulled down her pants, was sexually assaulting her with his hands, touching her breasts, penetrating her vaginally with his hands, and then using her hands to masturbate. And she remembered feeling frozen, that she knew in her brain what was going on, but those pills left her paralyzed, that she couldn't fight him off. She told the jury that she wanted to tell him to stop and she wanted to push him off, but she physically couldn't, and she couldn't even get the words out. She said it was like she was frozen. Vinny, it was sickening. It was absolutely sickening and heartbreaking to hear her say that this happened by someone she trusted. And now we know so much more about what happens when a victim is traumatized by a sexual assault. And she was afraid to go forward and report what had happened to her. She was afraid she would be disbelieved. He was such a powerful man, not only at Temple, where she was, but also just in our nation. As we know, he was America's favorite dad at the time. And so she waited to report it. But hey, there's really nothing wrong with that. We know that is just the way the brain works when somebody does experience trauma. So she was quite a believable witness, very brave, very matter of fact. She didn't come off as dramatic. It was very, very heartbreaking, her testimony. And I know you know this, Vinny, there was a crowd of other women, other accusers who've accused Bill Cosby of the same conduct, who were there watching that trial, watching every moment of it and cheering her on, because for them it was like they were living vicariously through Andrea Constand because of statute of limitation preclusions. Their cases couldn't go for legal reasons, but hers could. And now with it ending this way, certainly, as you said, they are very affected, and this is very upsetting.
Absolutely. But the bottom line is the conviction is gone. He's a free man. He can't be retried on these charges. And the other accusers who are out there, we don't know if there's any that are within the statute of limitations. So there's a chance he may never be retried or tried for any other charges. If there's anything out there, we don't know about it at this point. Let me just ask you one final question. And the original deal that the original prosecutor made in this case, he did it because he said at the time he didn't feel he could prove the case, and he wanted to clear the way for the civil case so the accuser, Andrea Constand, would have some sense of justice, at least in the civil system. Am I correct in the way I'm remembering that?
You're absolutely correct. That was the reasoning he gave. But I will tell you, from having spoken to attorneys in that office, many of them felt that the evidence was there. And to your point earlier when you began the show, Vinny, nothing changed. It wasn't like any new revelations came from 2004 until 2016. Nothing new happened. The evidence was there, arguably, all along. And as somebody who witnessed it, I would certainly say it is there. So I appreciate you saying that this isn't an exoneration, because it wasn't based on a lack of factual evidence that supported the crimes
or
charged.
any new facts that came to light. It's
Right.
all based upon bait and switch. He was given a promise. Fundamentally unfair is what the Supreme Court found. Julie Grant, always great to have your insight. I appreciate you staying tonight, because Julie's on, as you know, every day from 12 to 3 here in your front row seat to justice. Long, long day for her, but she's the expert. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Vinny.
All right, let's bring in our think tank tonight. Joining us on our think tank tonight, we've got Eklund Mercy. I could see her, criminal defense attorney in Atlanta, Georgia. Also with us, Nima Rahmani. He is a former federal prosecutor out in Los Angeles, and the man who represented Jodi Arias, the author of Trapped with Ms. Arias in Phoenix, Arizona tonight, Kirk Nurmi. Great to see everyone. All right, Eklund Mercy, you're up first. This is not an exoneration tonight. Agree, disagree?
I disagree. It was an exoneration. His conviction was overturned. That means there's no conviction. That means he is blameless. That means he is innocent of these charges. So that's why procedural due process is pretty important. And that's what happened here. We cannot have prosecutors doing bait and switch. That's why we had the Central Park Five. We cannot have prosecutors promising things and manufacturing ways to get confessions out of defendants only to use it later on. Like, the defendant needs to be able to give it knowingly, willingly, and voluntarily, and we didn't have that here. So if you have, as prosecutors, you have prosecutors who are overzealous, who really just want to get that nail in that case, but at the end of the day, you're putting these victims through trauma. If you don't have enough, let them know in the beginning, instead of traumatizing them, having to testify, having to be cross-examined if you feel that it's a weak case.
Nima, are you agreeing with Eklund Mercy tonight?
Absolutely not. Respectfully, Eklund, this is not justice. This is a miscarriage of justice. Vinny, you said it twice. This is shocking. This is unprecedented. This is not someone who was exonerated. This is not someone who's innocent. In fact, he testified in his civil deposition under penalty of perjury that he gave quaaludes to, drugged and raped these women. So let's just talk about what happened here. If that testimony was obtained in violation of the Fifth Amendment, which I disagree, the proper remedy is to suppress those statements, allow the state to retry the case. What the Pennsylvania Supreme Court did here was go way too far. There's no agreement here. There's no immunity in exchange for waiving one's Fifth Amendment privilege. There's no non-prosecution agreement. Bruce Castor, who infamously defended Donald Trump in the Capitol riots cases, issued a press release in 2005, and he signed it. And all he said was that Bill Cosby isn't going to be prosecuted. That doesn't bind any subsequent DA. But what did he do? In 2016, when Judge Furman, who was DA at the time, took over, he sends an email. And he sends an email, even though there was no agreement, saying, this was my understanding. He sabotaged the case in 2005. He got involved again when he was no longer in office in 2016. And this is a sad day for victims of sexual assault and the Me Too movement. These poor women, 2 of which had to testify in 2 separate trials, 4 others in a very public case. And we already know how often sexual assault cases are prosecuted in this country, and it's not very often. And this is why victims don't come forward. And I'm saddened today that Bill Cosby is a free man, because he's not innocent, and my heart breaks for those women.
Kirk, let me put up on the screen for everyone the press release that became the central piece of the reason that Bill Cosby is free tonight. Again, this was issued by the prosecutor back in 2005, February 17th. And it says on this press release from the DA, after this analysis, the district attorney concludes that a conviction under the circumstances of this case would be unattainable. As such, District Attorney Castor declines to authorize the filing of criminal charges in connection with this matter. The district attorney encourages the parties to resolve their dispute from this point forward with a minimum of rhetoric. basically paving the way for this civil settlement, which ended up happening. $3.4 million was the amount of the civil settlement. Kirk, was justice delivered today by the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania?
Oh boy, that's such a complicated question, Vinny, because you're right.
That's why I asked you,
nothing-
Kirk. I'm not bringing you on to answer
all
easy
right.
questions.
Here we go, Vinny. There's nothing that changes the facts, and there's nothing that diminishes the courage of those women who came up and testified against Mr. Cosby. Nothing changed that. And as was said a moment ago, there's nothing that changes the confession he made during those depositions, right? But at the same time, we do have this bait and switch. I would disagree that this was something that we should just suppress those statements, because everything in that statement relates to prosecutorial immunity, not use immunity. There's not even a construct of use immunity. Everything in his statement, everything in the communication is absolute immunity, and that's what Mr. Cosby relied on. So while justice may have been denied the victims in some sense, their courage and their bravery is applauded, and ultimately, at the same time, the rule of law that protects us all, those due process rights, was also upheld at the same time.
A complicated situation, but that's how it stands tonight. All right, we've got a lot.